Been in the game for quite some time, writing words and spitting rhymes, twisting up verbs and dropping dope lines. I'm here to take my shit back, motherfucker, gon' give me what's mine. Ow. You wanna do what I do? You gotta do what you do. You wanna talk the way I talk? You gotta talk and talk. You wanna walk the way I walk? Yeah. But you can't, so you might as well stop. Try. Bullshitt, bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit. Bullshit.
Do you wanna know? Do you wanna know where is Jack? I can tell you something about Jack. Where you are for real, bitch. Let me show you.
You like the stylish clothes I wear? Hold up, bitch, don't touch my hair.
Don't touch my hand, girl.
You smell the fragrance of my cologne to the air. A bona fide Mac, know what you know about that, Jack? You wanna do what I do?
You gotta do what you do.
You wanna talk the way I talk?
You gotta talk and talk.
You wanna walk the way I walk?
Yeah.
But you can't, so you might as well stop. Try. Bullshit, bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit. Hold up now, you must think you slick. You talking about that, but that ain't this. You think that you're magic, hocus pocus with all your tricks. Wanna impress me, bitch? Drown a fish.
You bitch,
You wanna do what I do?
you gotta do what you do.
You wanna talk the way I talk?
You gotta talk and talk.
You wanna walk the way I walk?
Yeah.
But you can't, so you might as well stop. Try.
Hit the like button as you come in.
Been in the game for quite some time, writing words and spitting rhymes, twisting up verbs and dropping dope lines. I'm here to take my shit back, motherfucker, gon' give me what's mine. Ow. You wanna do what I do?
You gotta do what you do.
You wanna talk the way I talk?
You gotta talk and talk.
You wanna walk the way I walk? Yeah. But you can't, so you might as well stop. Try. Bullshit, bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit. Bullshit. stylish clothes I wear. Hold up, bitch, don't touch my hair.
Don't touch my hand, girl.
You smell the fragrance of my cologne through the air.
A bona fide Mac. Know what you know about that, Jack?
You wanna do what I do.
You gotta do it.
You wanna talk the way I talk.
You gotta talk.
You wanna walk the way I walk.
Yeah. But you can't, so you might as well stop. Try. Who's Jack? Who's Jack? Who's Jack? Who's Jack? Who's Jack? Who's Jack? Who's
All right, all right, all right. I know it's late. I'm over here in California, so it's just about midnight on the East Coast. Everybody's in bed, but I just felt the need to do this little stream because it was on my mind. What's happening with your D. Williams? All right, and everybody in the chat. So we ain't gonna be here too long. I just want to share, as I was listening to some briefly. I mean, people were just streaming too long, so I skimmed through a few people's live streams. First of all, if you guys can hear me well, type in number 8 or a 3 in the chat so I can continue. I think I'm heard well. All signs say I am. Okay. I see you. Thank you, Tracy Jones. What's good with you? All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. So I was listening to a few streams, and I heard people arguing, and I just wanted to weave this into a different type of presentation I'm doing tonight. People arguing about the word black and who's blackened, who's not blackened. Were people always called blackened, social construct blackened, things of that nature, right? Everybody's going back and forth, but I've been clearly given the answer to all this previously. So I want to clarify again tonight regarding the word black, and I may parlay it into Ethiopians and Eritreans and people of the Horn and what they consider themselves, right? On into slavery in Ethiopia and how Ethiopia is one of the last countries in Africa to abolish slavery next to Morocco. I'm sorry, not Morocco. I'm sorry. Mauritania, right? So I'm going to weave this in, and we're going to delve into, and when people really listen to what I'm going to say today and combine it with things I've said in the past, there should really be no more argument about the label black, right? And its use and who it is. I'm a proud black man. My tribe is black Americans in general, right? We've been saying black forever. We just left out of what? Black History Month. I know. My daddy know. My nieces with master's degrees. My girlfriend, a lady friend who has a master's in education, is a high school assistant principal. My whole entire family, my son who's about to get his degree, we all know what black folk is, and when somebody says black people, we're clear. Okay? Now, I've made the claim that we've always been called black people, people who are of sub-Saharan African origin, or if you don't like that term, because people acting funny, people of south of the Sahara. I'm a south of the Sahara descendant. You dig? I can consider myself of the black race. I don't care about people talking about social construct. We all understand that. I'm not talking about that right now. I've made videos and presentations claiming that the ancient cultures always, through history, have called people south of the Sahara or sub-Saharan Africans black folk. The name Sudan means land of the blacks, and it goes all the way to West Africa. They're talking about Sudan was an ancient term meaning in sub-Saharan Africa in general. I don't want to go through all this showing you. I've done all that before. Persians in Arabic called us Yang, meaning black. Europeans said Negro land, and they talking about sub-Saharan Africa. Negro meaning black in Latin, Spanish. In Ethiopia, which I'm tying this into, they called us black. Now, I was listening to Chevron go off today, and Chevron is half right, Chevron is half wrong. And I love the discussion they were having. But in general, I was agreeing with Chevron's point. But I wanted to clarify and show some things as to why people may say that a Eritrean or a Ethiopian is not black. Now, there will be conflicting ideas on this, so it's not a blanket thing, but I want to give an understanding tonight. Right? And we're going to break this down. So, Ethiopia is made up of different types of people on the land. You have Nilotic people in what we consider Ethiopia. Oromo people in what we consider Ethiopia. Let me show you an Oromo woman. Let me see if my screen sharing. It might be a delay. On my tablet, let me see. Hold on. Is the lady showing? Hold on, let me do something else. Let me do this. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen. Oops. Stop screen share. Okay. Let me present again. Share my screen. Entire screen. Yep. And the audio. Yep. Let's go. Got it. Good. Okay. This is an Oromo woman. And I just want to state a few things. Just to remember these few things. Ethiopians slaved Oromo people and Nilotics. Ethiopia was the last country in Africa to abolish slavery. Ethiopia and Eritrean, listen to me, to these important points to remember, were the only countries, or one of the only countries, who weren't part of the sub-Saharan African slave trade. They weren't enslaved. They weren't colonized by Europeans. They're different. They have a different history in regards to slavery. Okay? Now, hey, what's going on, Gamal? Feel free to correct me if I'm off tonight. Okay? Now, this is where I want to go to. This is a medium, right? Let me just show you this, since it's highlighted real quick. Ethiopia is one of 2 African countries, to never be colonized by Europeans. You have to understand that, And we're talking about black, and I'm going to get back to the black and how we were called black in ancient times, and in this presentation, um, through different terms. Just bear with me, right? But I'm just laying my ground real quick. So Ethiopia and Eritrea is one of the two African countries never to be colonized by Europeans. Okay? Let me back out. Understand that. So there's a difference politically, right? This was a letter written by an Ethiopian, right? And let's go along. He said, I was born in Ethiopia. I am an Ethiopian immigrant. I am Ethiopian American. I am black, it says. So since he's an Ethiopian American, he considers himself black since he's amongst blacks in black America. Okay? Let me blow this up so we can all read and read along. Okay? Okay. Okay. These are my identities. He said, growing up, my parents would tell me, you are not black, you are Ethiopian. I shared videos with some Somalians and some Ethiopians saying they don't consider themselves black. They're Somalian or they're Ethiopian. Okay? So this is just a story of a person telling of their family and themselves. His parents would tell me, you are not black, you're Ethiopian. While this may be partially true, right? In America, I am undoubtedly black. If you disagree, go consult a brown paper bag. It is seemingly meaningless distinction, but this statement was detrimental to my understanding of my identity as a black boy transitioning into a black man in America. I want to talk about it so that we can start a discussion and end the self-hating. I am coming from my own people, but this discussion as a whole should be applied to every single African American immigrant community in the U.S. You might not realize it, but we are perpetrating racial stereotypes, okay? You are not black, you are Ethiopian, his family would say. Now, Haile Selassie did not consider himself black. He did not consider himself anything like the Nilotics or the Oromos that they enslaved and only abolished slavery in 1942. Say what? Yes. 1942 is where they officially abolished slavery in Ethiopia. Ethiopians weren't slaves, but the people around them, the Nilotics, the Oromos, what they call the Baira or Nara people, were slaves that Ethiopia took as slaves. I'll prove it. Right? Unlike other African groups, Ethiopia and Eritrean immigrants refer to themselves as Habesha, which means Semitic-speaking inhabitants of Ethiopia and Eritrea. Bear with me. You are not black, you are Ethiopian. Right? This is a common thread, right? Now let me back out. I'm going to move on, and we're going to break down some stuff. You know what? Let me just finish reading this and we'll move on. Let me blow it back up. Bear with me. Okay, my people, what does it say? Okay. People use this statement to set a distinction between themselves. A distinction. They distinguish them from you. Okay? Between themselves, black Americans or descendants of enslaved people. Why is this distinction important for Habesha people? According to Elizabeth Chaco, an expert in racial, national, and ethnic identity formation among immigrants, black immigrants resist, okay? They resist identification with American blacks for a number of reasons, including prejudices against native blacks, general aversion to an undistinguished black identity, and pride in what their national identity. Fuck what y'all are talking about. They have pride in their national identity, and they want to distinguish themselves from you, so they don't want to be considered black. Not only do Eritreans and Ethiopians immigrants know the roots of their ancestry, but Ethiopia is one of the two African countries to never be colonized by Europeans. But how did our national pride turn into aversion to claiming blackness as an identity? Right? Now, and here goes a picture. Oops. Let me make it small. Of Haile Selassie. In this image, and I'm going to show you other images, I personally don't consider Haile Selassie a black man. I consider Oromo people, Nilotic people, other people in Ethiopia black, the slaves of Ethiopians black, but not Haile Selassie, and he doesn't consider himself that. Let's go see. Let's move forward. Haile Selassie, an image. I personally, whether you do or not, don't consider Haile Selassie a black man. That's me personally. He doesn't look like a black man. If he walked through the hood of Compton, where I was born, we would look at him strange. We would think he's something else. Okay? I'm just giving you images. Now, there are other people in Ethiopia who are black to me. So we have to be careful, and there's nuances in Ethiopia. There's nuances. Okay? So let's go with this. So let me just show you this again. These are Ethiopian women. They're black women. This looks different. Where was I? Hold on. Oops. Then that. It's a difference. So that's just my personal thing. Now, where was I? Okay, I was down here. Excuse me. This is an Ethiopian woman. She's a black woman. She's an Oromo woman in Ethiopia. So remember these terms: Oromo, Nara, and Baira. It's all the same in general. Baira. Remember those terms, okay? She's a black woman, in my opinion. These were slaves of Ethiopians. These were slaves of who? Ethiopians like this. Haile Selassie type was never enslaved. His country was never colonized by white folk. Okay? Now let's go on. Everybody defense down for a sec. Just defense down. Let me work it out for you. I'm just giving clarity and an understanding. So why some people may say black, some people may not say black, and what the Ethiopians themselves say. So I'm just quoting and showing what they say and think. Okay? Now, I'm tying it in with slavery in Ethiopia. Right? As we see here. What does it say? Who did Ethiopians enslave? The practice formed an integral slavery. They're talking about slavery in Ethiopia. The practice formed an integral. It was important. Part of, Ethiopian society. Slaves were traditionally drawn from where? The Nilotic groups inhabiting Ethiopia's southern hinterlands and the what? Oromos. So I said they enslaved Nilotics and Oromos who are Ethiopians, but in my opinion, I would say black. So Selassie type Ethiopians enslaved who? Nilotics and Oromos in Ethiopia. Are we clear? This just gives you understanding. Okay, let's move on. Now, what else? Just so you be clear. Oops, where were we? I gotta make it smaller again. Oh, there we go. During Italian rule, the occupation government issued two laws in October 1935 and 1936, which abolished slavery and freed 420,000, damn near half a million Ethiopian slaves, Nilotics, and Oromos. After Italians were expelled, Emperor Haile Selassie returned to power and quickly abolished slavery, the actual practice, in 1942. Just so you know, I'm not making that up. Ethiopians was enslaving black folk. And they called them black folk, but didn't call themselves black folk. Show and prove, Chief X. That's late in the game, 1942. And then he abolished slavery officially in 1942. That's late in the game. Let's go. Byra, Naira, I said, remember those names? Omaro, they're all the same. Here we go, Byra. In Ethiopian, Eritrea, we're going to get back to black. Two terms, both designating ethnic groups, came to be used almost interchangeably to refer to each other and generally to slave. Byra, I looked up Byra, right? Let me just show this real quick. Where's he at? I was looking at Byra. I said, what is Byra? And this brother right here popped up. If you can see on the right. Hold on, let me click on him. And he's a Eritrean. And his nickname or name in his name is Bara, as you can see here. I don't know if you guys can see. Right? That's his name. Yemain Bara from Ethiopia, Eritrea, right? Just real quick. I just want to show that real quick. Hold on. Right? So when I looked up his name right here, he's a Eritrean songwriter. So they know who Byra is. But let's get back to Byra and stuff, right? Both these terms are also applied to Negro physical characteristics. Let me blow this up so we can all be clear. I'm putting something together for you guys. Just bear with me real quick so we can read. Byra, as you see, I can't highlight this for some reason. And Sanquilla, both these terms excuse me, where were we? In Ethiopia and Eritrea, two terms, both designating ethnic groups, came to be used. Oh, let me make this smaller. I got it on 500. Okay, here we go. Okay, in Ethiopia and Eritrea, two terms, both designating ethnic groups. Why is this moving so far up? Okay, here we go. Came to be used almost interchangeably to refer to each other and generally to slave. Byra and Sanquilla, both these terms are also applied to Negroid physical characteristics in Amharic. Nowadays, the meaning slave tends slowly to get lost, the word being mostly used to mean black ones. You see? We've always been called black folk. Chef ran it right when he was ranting on that today. How does people forget who black folk is when the entire world in ancient times and in now times called us black folk south of the Sahara? They were calling these people black ones that Ethiopians enslaved. I tell you I'm tying it in real quick. Word being mostly used to mean what? Black ones. B originally referred to a specific ethnic group. Nara. Remember I said, Byra, Naira, in old Matics. You see it says Naira there. Often used as a source for slaves. Who are Naira people? Let me just show real quick and come on back. Naira people are an ethnic group inhabiting what? Eritrea, southwestern Eritrea. The society is divided into four subtribes who are traditionally animist. They are mostly subsistence farmers, right? According to Eritrean government. Nara of descendants of the first Nilo-Saharan settlers in Eritrea who had migrated from the upper Nile, right? Some of them intermarried with pygmy populations, right? So when I say Naira, I'm equating people together. Now let me get back to where I was. Okay, so I'm just showing you it says Naira to the left, you see? Okay? And they're talking about these black people, also called Byra, that they now call Naira. Okay? You follow me? Let's go. Means black ones. Specific ethnic group. Now, I wanted to say this before I started. I heard Chef Ron say that Garfield said he didn't know he was black till he came to America. And that was straight bullshit. It is straight bullshit. And I'm pissed that I heard that and Ankh didn't check him on it. I'm sitting here watching a brief skit of the show Good Times when Micah was talking about Black Jesus on the wall. Michael, JJ, Thelma, Good Times. Started in 1972. I was born in 1969. Good Times started in 1972. Michael was saying Black Jesus. What's Happening show, they were saying black folk. What are these people? They didn't. Maybe in Jamaica they didn't see Good Times. I don't know. We've always known who they talking about when they say black folk. When we was watching Good Times, we knew when Michael was showing Black Jesus to his mama and he broke out the Bible. Michael was the first revolutionary in Black America. First revolutionary kid in Black America, Michael from Good Times. He was talking about Black Jesus on the wall. They've been talking about black folk forever. Black nationalism. Marcus Garvey from Jamaica. United Negro Association group he started. What does Negro mean? Black. We've always been black folk. What is y'all talking about? What are you confused about? You don't know who black folk is. But we know why people start arguing who and what black folk is. Because they was trying to blur the lines and muddy the waters in regards to the Egyptian conversation. But let's get back to the Nara, the Byra, the black ones. Often used as a source for slaves appearing in inscriptions from the reign of the Aksumite king Nzana as early as the 4th century. Later became the generic term for slave in reference to any particular group in the extension. And wait a minute, I skipped something. In the extent that in certain historical periods it was used in such glorifying appellations, right? Slave of the Trinity. So in religion, in mythology, in society, in ancient times, black folk was the same type of person with a better Israel. Byra connotes subjugation and racial inferiority, anti-slavery laws, and social taboo, granting it in the intensity of a curse. The term is contrasted with kawa, which designates a civilized free human being. Okay? We can go on and on and on, but I'm just giving you where you guys can take on your further research and say, damn, Chief X mentioned Byra are considered black, as you're reading right here, regardless of their actual color. They can be brown. They can look like me. They can look like Donnie Williams. They can look like Chef Ron, But what? They are considered black, it says. Can you read? It's just a description of a certain type of people south of the Sahara. It's a description of people like Haile Selassie, who they enslaved. Haile Selassie had hundreds of slaves. Not his own looking type, but Nilotes and Oromos and Byra and Naira people. Let's go, teach, Chief. Now, did I gotta go on? I can keep reading on, right? It's source right here. Right there is the source if you want to look it up on your own. Encyclopedia Ethiopica, however they pronounce it right here. Go look it up. Blackness in Transition, decoding racial constructs through stories of Ethiopian Jews. Now, I can go on and on about this. I don't want to hold you here too long. But just get what I'm saying. Beta Israel did not perceive the color of their skin as black. The Ethiopian Jews, like other non-Jewish neighbors back in Ethiopia, were owners of black slaves. What is it telling you? The Beta Israel did not perceive themselves as black skin. Can you read? Probing even further beneath the skin, deeper layers become visible. The Ethiopian Jews, like their non-Jewish neighbors back in Ethiopia, were owners of what? Black slaves. So people on the continent were called black. African Americans are called black. People south of the Sahara are called black to people on the continent of Africa in ancient times, in now times, all the times. It may just be in the form of another word, but it's the same thing. Okay? A fact that group members have not shared with outsiders in Israel, right? Hold on. And it's talking about who? The Byra people. Oops, that's the Byra people. The slaves known as Byra. To this day constitute a separate. The Ethiopians separate themselves from the Byra. This is why I'm saying and trying to give an understanding, because I've read about this before, why some people don't consider some Ethiopians black, but they consider other Ethiopians black. Whether someone considers Haile Selassie black or not, I don't care. I'm just giving you the understanding why some people separate the term. Because they've lived a different political ideology. They lived a different life in terms of and in relation to colonization by European nations. They have a bloodline linked to Arabs. It's just a difference people feel. Okay? Okay. If you guys will read, orders juxtaposed against the term chi, which designates a free human being, on and on and on and on and on and on. Byra slaves were inaugurated into the Beta Israel by a conversion process, rendering them Byra Phalacia, distinct from the Byra of other groups despite their conversion. However, their separate origin is fastidiously maintained in the collective memory. I can go on and on, but I don't want to bore you. You guys can do your further research. Let me just show you what I'm showing you so you can see what it is. This is Institutional Login, Journal of Folklore Research, right? Journal of Folklore, oops. I accept. Just so you know, Journal of Folklore, Indiana University. You can look it up yourself. The Journal of Folklore Research, Volume 40, Number 1, right? Related to Indiana University. You can read more on it on your own time. All right. Who are the Nara people? That these Ethiopians, as I showed you, were enslaving. People like the brother on the right, the darker hue right here that's a little different looking than Haile Selassie. Huh? Nara people. They are an ethnic group inhabiting southwestern Europe. I read this earlier. I'm sorry. Here goes some more information. Eritrea, the Nara people. These people you acting like be the Egyptians and shit with the white dusty shit in their head, whatever it is they be having. You know how y'all do. Act like these was the Egyptians. This is the Nara, formerly known as the what? Baira. Remember I told you? It's all in the same. The Baraya people. Some spell it Baria or Barya. Are a Nilo-Saharan speaking people who live in the Gash Barga of the region of Eritrea. You can check this out in your time. These are black folk as well as Ethiopians. Okay? Is there something I wanted to read here? Let me make sure before I go past this. Let me just see. The Nara, formerly known as the Baira, there you go right there, are a Nilo-Saharan speaking people. Hey! Haile Selassie was not a Nilo-Saharan speaking person. I could be wrong. But Haile Selassie was different. He was not a Nilo-Saharan speaking people. I could be wrong. That's not my lane. I'm sure Ngozi may help me out, correct me. Right? The Nara, formerly known as Baira, are Nilo-Saharan speaking people who live in the Gash Baira region of Eritrea, around the north and east of Barentu. Right. Let me continue on. There's something in here that I wanted to show. It was something else, but I may get over it. I'm going to think about it later. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Centuries. Let me blow this up so we can all can see. Chief X ain't just making nothing up, right? Centuries of slave trading against who? The Nara people. Centuries of slave raiding against who? The Nara people. Who was slave raiding them? Who was enslaving them? Ethiopian, Haile Selassie type. Centuries of slave raiding against the Nara people who were then known as Baira. Again, people led to the adoption into Tigra, Bulain, Tigrini, I don't know how to pronounce the word, and Alhamric languages of the world. Baira as a generic name for slave, right? As you see, Baira as a generic name for slave. In 1776, European travel by the name Dermot Robert Burke described the Nara people who have no firearms and only hunt and destroy with spears and knives. And they got a picture of them. Black folk. To them. This is not me just saying this. This is to them. To Ethiopians and to Europeans. They say the Nara as a people who have no firearms and only hunt and destroy with spears and knives. Because a lot of others in the world were having firearms. Haile Selassie and his stock was having firearms. Along with the Europeans who never colonized them. Am I lying? Okay, let's go on. So it's a difference between different types of people in Ethiopia. Okay, what else do I want to touch on before I move from here? Because I don't want to be here all night. Um, okay, this is a 19th century European describing. Let's just read along real quick. A 19th century European traveler described the Nara as, you know what I mean? In many respects, they resemble the warlike tribes of the Red Indians, though they are certainly superior to them in size and strength. They saying they was a little bigger than the Native Americans. Right? You got to understand what they're saying. Though they are certainly superior to them in size and strength. They will follow a traveling party for days, giving not an indication of their presence and speaking to no one another wholly by signs of which they have an extensive vocabulary, but they will never show themselves until the time comes for striking the long meditated blow, when they will make their attack and then vanish as mysteriously as they had come on one occasion nearly two blah 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 blah. They just talking about their feet. Okay, here we go. Let's just read this last few. Principal men of the village. One, a man who was celebrated for his majestic and somewhat pompous demeanor, took a walk toward their cotton fields and found themselves in the midst of the Baraya, who captured them and carried them off to be sold as slaves to the Arabs. Carried them off and sold them to be slaves to who? The Arabs, who would probably sell them to the Turks. Carried them off and sold them as slaves to the Arabs, who would probably sell them again to the Turks. Right here, The Natural History of Man, Africa, by George Wood, page 746. The Narabana language virtually has no history of literary tradition. They didn't write, basically. Only in 1776, when some concerned member of the ethnic group tried to write the Naralandric, they tried to help write the Naralandric using what? The Arabic script. People got mad when I said some of West and Central Africa didn't really get literate until the Arabic script, which made people through religion and through Islam and through Christianity, people to communicate in mass numbers through literature. Previously, you weren't able to communicate cross country in mass communication without literature. So through religion, people became literate. It's nothing to be mad about or not want to believe. It's just what it is. Right? Both the Nara and Kunama, who are geographically neighbors, show similar results corresponding, blah, 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 blah. Okay, then we can go on and on. I can be here for days, right? These are the Nara people. These are black folk. Black folk. Eritrean black folk in them areas. They may be different genetically than us, but they would be. I would consider them black folk. But they're different than Haile Selassie stock. That's all my point is. Okay, so let me move on. Ethiopia emperors in slavery. Let's not get confused. Who is this? Library of Congress blogs. And custodial law librarians of Congress, right? Ethiopia emperors in slavery. I'm not making this up. Slavery in the Ethiopian region is of a great antiquity. Historical inscriptions going as far back as 1495 BC point to the subjugation of people from the land of Punt into slavery blah blah blah. There's also sources indicating that the export of slaves from Askamat Empire, a territory that included parts of modern-day Eritrea and Ethiopia, slavery continued to be a national custom in Ethiopia well into the 20th century. In the Library of Congress, they're telling you Ethiopia was one of the last countries in Africa to abolish slavery. And who was they enslaved in? Nilotes, Omoro people, Omoroto people, Byra, Naira. Slavery continued to be a national custom, right? Well into the early 20th century. So much so that Ethiopian rulers included those who did not approve of the institution, such as Menelik, who didn't approve of it, right? Anything who laughed, excuse me, and Emperor Haile Selassie, Ethiopia's region, an emperor of Ethiopia, are said to have owned slaves by the thousands. What? Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, are said to have owned slaves by the thousands. Some even personally took part in slave raids. Where were they slave raiding? Was these Haile Selassie type slave raiding? Okay, anyway. And in 1912 slave raiding exposition, one of the first written laws to regulate slavery in Ethiopia region was the Fetha Nagast, right? And this sources all too. I can click on all this, but I don't want to keep it here all day. But we can continue on. It also provided for the enslavement of non-believers and the children of slaves, right? A person did not have to have fought in the losing side of a war or be born to a certain class of people to end up a slave, as there were additional bases for enslaving people. For instance, a woman who cohabitated or married a slave could be enslaved. Damn. Failure to pay one's debt could result in temporary slavery, also known as a debt bondage. Blah 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 blah. Um, Slaves could not own property of their own, serve as witnesses. Like basically, you couldn't vote. You would say equated to. Um, couldn't make wills, meaning shit couldn't get passed down. They couldn't make a will, right? Um, what else? What else? What else? Selling siblings offered for sale. I mean, like a slave could be emancipated if the slave has served what, two generations of a family retirement plan of sorts. God damn, two generations. If a member of the master's family became the godfather or godmother of the slave, if a slave became priest or monk, of course that slave would have needed his master's permission. If the slave became a soldier, if the slave had several, excuse me, if the slave had saved his master's life, he could be freed. If a pregnant slave was emancipated, her child would be born free. If a slave had been taken prisoner during the war but returned his master of his own volition afterwards, and right, if a slave owner died leaving no heirs, right? Me, oh shit! If a slave owner died leaving no heirs, meaning if the slave owner had heirs, the slave would go pass down to his children, and he's still not free. But if he had no heirs, hey, no heirs, hey, he can be free. Man, we can go on and on. Library of Congress documents all this. There was a difference in different types of Ethiopians, is my point. We have to understand that. It's a bunch of nuances. Richard Pankhurst, the Ethiopian slave trade in the 19th century and the early 20th century. I mean, these are sources. But see, Nilotes wasn't enslaving nobody and no Ethiopians. So it was always differences. Now let me move on. All right, some Omoro people, right? Okay, this is what I wanted to get to. Last topic real quick. We're gonna be brief. I have in the title "Black Blood Samurai Bullshit" because I was arguing on Facebook where people are parroting the phrase. Hold on, y'all. What's going on, y'all? I'm sitting here arguing on Facebook with people who was parroting this old thing people said. You're not a real samurai unless you have some black blood. I'm like, a real samurai, you have to have a bit of black blood. You know, this is an old quote in Afrocentric circles. But it came from other circles, and I had to look into this because I knew it was a bunch of bullshit. Samurais were not black folk. Black folk wasn't even in the area at all. Not even 1%. So, I want to show and prove real quick, and we're going to end this. Hold on. And we're going to get out of here. Okay. Let me come back to y'all. I got it. So this is an old saying in this so-called conscious community. And the quote, you can't be a real samurai unless you have a little black blood, comes from a French naval officer in 1870. I went down this rabbit hole that I found some literature. This other guy said he went down this rabbit hole trying to research where did that bullshit come from, and why do black folk push that shit. He said hairs, hairs. Donnie Williams corrected you. HEIRS, passed down to your hair, to your hairs. If the how you, I might be pronouncing it wrong, but yeah. So I said, ain't no black folk was in Japan at them times because we don't come from nowhere in them areas. Where do people get this shit from? And then they talk about this one black samurai whose name was, how you pronounce it? Yasuko. Yasuke. Right? So let me just break this on down for you guys real quick. Let me share my screen. Okay, here we go. So first, Yasuke was a so-called one and only black samurai. So blacks in the Afrocentric community and the conscious community got all excited about it and got to claiming like samurais are black and you got to have black blood and all this old dumb shit. Just people parroting people. I think I may have even used to say this back in the day. So if I talk about something, I come from that something I'm talking about. Okay? So Yasuke was his name, right? Yasuke was a man of African origin, right? Who came to Japan in the Sengoku period and became a retainer. I don't want to go into what a retainer is, but you can look it up. A retainer is kind of like a friend or somebody new or different around. You kind of keep them around. They like, let's just say, for instance, like a maybe some dignitary, and they can be kind of a helpful or a guide, and be like an in between in conversation. Okay, anyway, Yasuko wasn't Japanese, but he was of African origin who came to Japan. Understand that, right? And became a retainer in the household of Oda, right? He was employed by the Japanese Sengoku. So you have to understand that samurai are Japanese people. They're not any other type of people. They're not black people. There are no samurais no more. It was an old school thing. So let's just go through this real quick. He was employed by the Japanese Sengoku, however you pronounce this, Nobunga, and served as a kosho, page or sword bearer. Basically, he was just he was brought over there by some Italian traveler We're gonna get to that. And he just became pardoned. Some people took to him, and he became a samurai and trained and learned with him. And he was the only one though. But let's continue. He was neither a menial or an indentured servant, but a retainer who was given a stipend by Nabunga. Okay. Birth and life. Among those names have been ascertained. He is the oldest African to appear in Japanese historical records, and that was just in 1579. So in 1579, he is the oldest African to appear in Japanese historical records. So prior to him, there were no black folk in Japan. Understand this. They only came there during times when people began to travel and began to become seafaring people. And people travel to different lands. Now, as you know, if you have a map in front of you, Japan's kind of an island. So that happened in seafaring time, and it's telling you right here, 1579. Just understand the history and the common sense. Among those whose names have been ascertained, he's the oldest African to appear in Japanese historical record, but his confirmed period of stay in Japan was very short. He only stayed there 3 years, people. Calm down. Look right here, about 3 years. From August in 1579 to June in 1582. There are few historical documents on him. It's not a lot of information, with only fragmentary accounts in the letters of the Jesuit mystery such and such. Okay? The name Yasuka was given to him by a Japanese man. His real name is unknown, right? However, there's no doubt that he had African roots, right? In this other legend, it says Yasuka was a servant brought from India, right? But there's a couple legends about him. But the most important one was that he, let me see, where's it at? It's right here, okay? The documented account says in 1559, Yasuke arrived in Japan in the service of Italian Jesuit. He was a visitor of missions in the Indies, in India. Okay, he may have did come through India. Okay, cool. He had been appointed the visitor, right? But he wasn't a slave per se. But anyway, he was brought there through an Italian person, through India, and ended up in Japan and became cool. That's who he was. Now, who the story comes from, this is like a quote.org, right? Let me blow it up so you can see. It's often depicted as a Japanese proverb, but it's not a Japanese proverb. It came from, the quote is actually from George Maget, a French naval doctor in the 1870s, who eventually, when I started going down this rabbit hole, George Maget, this French naval officer who that quote came from, was be considered a quack because he was making all kind of claims and shit in the 1870s, right? And then it says, furthermore, it is not an accurate statement from African ancestry. No one of African ancestry, is what it's telling you here, has ever said, for a samurai, here we go, the quote, for a samurai to be brave, he must have a bit of black blood, right? So no one, it's not an accurate statement of Japanese ancestry. Right? So let me move on. So this guy broke this down. Why did he go down this rabbit hole, for one, and never heard of this quote before Googling? He got a lot of it from Afrocentric websites, right? Go figure, right? Before I go into details, he said it will be clear that the proverb is probably completely made up. It was made up by the George Gore. Here we go, right here. So let's go. Oh, damn, where was I? Hold on. So this guy went to the same rabbit hole I went down. He found out that George Maget was a French naval doctor in Japan in 1870s with theories about the origins of the Japanese. This is where his quackery came in at. right? And this blackness came in at. In 1887, he apparently wrote an article claiming the Japanese were a mixture of Malay, Negritos, and of the Anu. And that's some quackery he got called out on. He said, I haven't been able to find a copy of the article online, but I did find a summary of Maggot's view, quoting the proverb, what we talked about, opposite in this French name right here I cannot pronounce and I won't begin to. And you can Google it right here on the books. It's highlighted. You can Google it. You can check this out yourself. If you want to know where the quote comes from, it comes from George Maggot. I ain't got time to sit here all day and do the research for you, right? Um, so they just debunking him about that origin of what he says this black blood come from and none of this old bullshit. Where else do I want to go? So he was saying that the Negritos of Malay, dark-skinned inhabitants of Southeast Asia set sail for Japan, interbred with the more white Anu, and produced the Japanese race halfway between black and white. But he was exposed anyway. So I just want to tell you where this quote comes from, and it comes from this quack named George Maggot. Excuse me, is that his name right? Let me get it right. George Maggot. Anyway, y'all can get it, look into it. Okay, and I don't want to go too further into it. But anyway, that's why I have that in the title. And no, no black folks was in Japan. And you don't, it no, that's not a Japanese proverb from any person of Japanese ancestry, right? Um, it just comes from some quack who was a French who had ended up traveling to Japan. Just so you know. And just let you know, the samurai were the hereditary military nobility and officer caste of medieval early Japan from the late 12th century until their abolition in the late what? 1870s. So it corroborates. George supposed to have been there in 1871 or 1870, right? But the samurai were 100% Japanese people as you see them today. There were never no black folk there. And the Yasuka, who became a samurai and was only there 3 years, was just like an honorary person to them. And they, just got to know him. And he was like a go between for communication. Okay? So, there are no more samurai as of 1870. And they were all Japanese people. Has nothing to do with any African people or any black people. Okay? This is easy to research. All right, what y'all talking about over here? Okay, Maria, what you say? Yasuka wasn't a samurai, but given samurai privileges by Lord Nobunaga, who took a particular interest in him. That's basically what it is. He took an interest in this black cat who he probably never had seen a black person. He was brought there by Portuguese Jesuits. Okay. Okay. Basically, that's what it's saying. Did you say Acadia? Those videos claim all martial arts come from Africa. Just as a martial arts fan and a serious combat fan is just from a person who have studied combat. Martial arts basically, just so you can everybody can have a basic understanding, is basically a fighting style. Now, people in their minds may not see wrestling. Wrestling is a martial art. It is a combat and or a fighting style. It's a martial art. So everywhere around the whole planet was a type of martial arts or people had a fighting style, right? As kids, just as humans, just as animals, even puppies just grow up fighting and wrestling and playing and with each other and doing things. They just grow up fighting and doing combat. It's just a universal thing. You dig? Right? So everybody develops some type of their own fighting style in their own area. Now, people visit and travel and migrate, and they may pick up tips from each other and add things or learn, but a martial art is basically a combat fighting style. So they did martial arts everywhere. They have Samoan martial arts. You know what I mean? They have Native American martial arts. Now, even though they may not use these terminology, but this is all the same thing. Let me read some of these comments. What you saying, Kenny? Dr. Umar Tariq started this madness. They said it in Hilly Kitten Colors, yeah. They've been saying it forever, but yeah, I think they did say it in Healing Colors. But they didn't break down the real history of Jasuka and who and how and this and that. Yeah, I was just briefly touching on it because I was arguing with this cat on Facebook because he seemed to think, yeah, we was in Asia too. We was the original samurai, and so I said, let me dig a little bit, and it just made me want to share what I came across with y'all. Yeah, to be a man, you have to have some black blood, some black blood. Get the hell out of here. Now let me just put this out there. I am not no well read on the history of Selassie and the like that. So don't take everything. I was just giving a general understanding of the differences between different types of Europeans and who was getting enslaved and who was doing the enslaving and who was never enslaved and who was enslaved. So even in Ethiopia, although Ethiopia wasn't colonized by Europeans, the ones that were considered black, the Baira, the Naira, the Nilotics, were getting enslaved in the Ethiopians by Ethiopia. You get what I'm saying? What's up, Ben Santos? What you say? All right, peace to you. I'm not sure if you was correcting me, but Palermo, if you were, cool. Cause I will never claim to be a multi genius and know everything. I'm just going through these comments. Good to see you too, Maria. Hey, Amir, what's up with you, man?
What's up, man? Peace and love to you. How you doing?
Did you catch me from the beginning?
Yeah, yeah. I finally caught up. I was listening
You kind
to.
of muffled a little bit.
I'm sorry. I finally caught up. I was listening to.
Wait, you got to move whatever your mouth or something from the
Oh, hold
microphone.
on. Could you hear me now?
We can hear you, just a little muffled.
Okay. I was saying I finally caught up with the part. I wanted to make. I mean, you're doing a great job. I wanted to say, as I was trying to explain on the show, we have to be, not you, but the audience. We have to be very careful with populations of sub-Saharan Africa. And what I mean by that is people want to hold on to Eritrea and Ethiopia. And it goes back to what you said when you said,
Hey, Amir, can you adjust something in your
could,
voice?
could you hear me? Could you hear me?
Yeah, are you on a speakerphone or something? What are you on?
Yeah, yes. Could you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just saying it's a little muffled. I just want to make sure the audience can y'all hear him in the audience? So sometimes where the mic hole is, we have some clothing or something muffled a little bit. You
What about
good?
now? Because I don't want to mess up the show. Could you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a little better. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we have to be careful with sub-Saharan Africa because people hold on to. Well, I like when you said all the countries. When you talked about Egypt before, and you said except partially a partial Sudan or Nubia, right? I like when you said that.
Somebody said the audio's low,
Oh
but
wow.
go ahead. They said muffled but better. Go ahead.
So the thing is that with Eritrea, morphologically, they are Caucasoid in description, but they are sub-Saharan Africans. But they're not West and Central Africans. They're not Congoids because 60% of their DNA is motor or omotic, and some of it is slightly Nilotic. 40% of it is Eurasian from the Natufian. So even though they're not morphologically Congoid like us, Western Central Africans, they're still putting that black taxon. That's why when in Israel, the
Pa-
philosopher you
Pause for a second. Pause for a second.
Mhm.
Can you guys hear him good in the audience? I can hear him because I got equipment on. But if you can hear him good enough, let's say that. If you can hear Ngozi good enough, type 1. If you can't hear him good at all, type 2. I'm glad you came in because I needed your help on something. So they can hear you good enough, Ngozi.
so I was saying this is why right now in Israel, the philosopher Jews are fighting for their identity and they call themselves black. But the philosopher, the Eritreans, the Habesha, yes, the Habesha and Eritreans are highly Eurasian at 40% and sometimes higher. But a large chunk of their DNA is indigenous to a premotor or omotic like signature, the Aga. Before the Habesha people mixed with people from Yemen 3,000 years ago, the larger chunk of their DNA comes from an Aga type people that was there. So
Well,
they're still.
before you continue, Amir,
Mhm.
um, you want to be called Amir from now on, though, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So just for the audience, this is Ngozi. Amir and Ngozi is the same person. So let's try to say Amir. So when you see Amir Sahel and stuff like that's Ngozi. Hey, but real quick,
Mhm.
I showed a picture of Haile Selassie,
Yes.
and he looks different. Different. He looks different for the Amoro people. Did I say
Yes.
that right? Amoro?
Aromo. Aromo.
Oromo people. He
Mhm.
looks a little he looks different than him.
Yes.
The Oromo people I would say is black. But Haile Selassie, I'm like, I don't know.
Well,
So what is he mixed with that's different than the Oromo?
Haile Selassie's father's side was Oromo. He was mixed with Oromo. And the thing about the Habesha, they have a larger chunk of the later Eurasian component that came from Yemen. The Oromo people are mixed too. They just have more of a earlier mix than the Habesha people that created Ethio-Semitic with the Agas who had a trade route with the Saba or the people of Sabians in Yemen. So they have a later Eurasian component, but the Oromo people are Cushitic people, like the Somali people. Oromo, Aga, Remindi, Somali are all Cushitic. And the Afar, they're all Cushitic. So the Oromo, even though they look distinct, the Oromo have an earlier mix.
You get back to the mic with your voice a little bit.
So even though the Oromo um, look more ethnical to the region, the Oromo people are mixed too because they're Cushitic people. And all Cushitic people, from Somali to Afar to Remindi, all these people have a very early Eurasian mix. So the only difference between him and the rest of them, he have the later Eurasian mix. So when you look at, if you go to Wiki, right, you can use this. The citations is there, and type up Habesha people. You will see that the Habesha people autosomally are 60 to to 40%. It ranges indigenous East Africans. 40 to another layer of percentage or even higher is Eurasian. And that Eurasian is a two-way split. So yes, Haile Selassie may look distinct morphologically because we have a later derived Eurasian component, but they both have Eurasian DNA signatures in there, especially the Oromo people. And yes,
Yeah.
and,
What do you see what's on the screen?
go ahead.
That's the homie Dior.
Yeah, that's
Can
my
you see
brother.
what's on the Can you see what's on the screen? What he wrote?
Yes, and he's correct about that. Gamal is correct about that. That Omotic component, they do have a larger cluster of Omotic component in them, but Oromo people are still mixed, and he
I
knows
see.
that.
I'm confused. I don't know what Omotic is,
So,
but it
so,
sounds similar to Oromos.
so Omotic and Moda is the same thing. And the thing is, like he just said, the Oromo people have a higher component of this Omotic DNA signature in them, but they are still slightly mixed. The Oromo people are slightly mixed. They have that same layer of Natufian DNA in them, which is the earlier Eurasian component. The Habesha people have a later derived Eurasian component, but the Habesha people, regardless of them having less Omotic DNA, and Gamal know this, whether people want to accept it or not, they still have a Moda or Omotic signature in there, but it's lesser than the Oromo. You can't get past that.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much it. So it's like an African American Creole from Louisiana. Some of them dudes is, and I'm saying we're a way different population. I'm just using an example. Some of them Creoles is less than 50% sub-Saharan, but we still call these niggas black in America. You see what I'm saying?
So this is what I'm saying, and goes. This is what I always say. So I be trying to have conversations about this in people south of the Sahara, right?
Yeah.
So people always will try to trip you up on somebody from the Horn of Africa. So this is why so a lot of times I'll say I'm talking about sub-Saharan Africa besides Horners
Correct.
because they're a little different, and it's a lot of gray areas, and it's a lot of nuances, and it confused people. So
Correct.
sometimes I would like people to leave the Horn of Africa out of it so we can stay on a conversation task. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. Because they don't have any, no, I wasn't here today. They don't have anything to do with us. So using them as an example all the time is problematic.
What are you on? What are you on? Your voice is really low.
No, I'm moving around, man. Could you hear me now?
Okay.
No, what I'm saying
It's
is
a little better.
using them as a proxy for us is problematic because they don't have anything to do with us. But some people hold on to them because they do represent a type of black population. I say a type because they're not our type of black. The Omotic people are not our type of black. We share ancestors with the Omotic people, but they're not our type of black. I'm talking about, and that's the base population of a lot of those Horners. And even some of that was even in the Natufian population. So people hold on to these people to use as a reference point to prove blackness in the northern eastern part of Africa. But as I said, and I want Gamal to hear this, and Gamal knows this. Gamal, yes, the Oromo people are higher in Moda DNA, but the Habesha people still have it in them. So we're not like I don't, I want to be honest about everything. They still have a Moda or Omotic signature in them, even though the Oromos have it higher. And the Oromos are still mixed. They have Natufian DNA as well.
Hmm. I see you. You put a video up, Gamal. I forgot the name of it. I gotta go look at it. So yeah, what else you got to say about our little presentation, Ngozi?
No, I think that you're doing a good job and you're teaching, and I do believe that we gotta stop playing with the Northeast Africans because even those Horners that's admixed are not Egyptians. Even though some ancient Egyptians in some areas may resemble that, but people are holding on to them, admixed East African population to hold on as a base root for Egypt. So it's just like like when you hit terms like Ethio-Somali, Ethio-Somali morphology is not from Africa. The Ethiopic morphology is from Africa. The Ethio-Somali morphology could have developed in between Northern Africa or Yemen area before crossing back in with a later phase of the Natufians. So what I'm saying is that we have to be very careful when we say terms like the East African to use them as a base reference because they have a lot of mixture over there. But because of that sub-Saharan East African, which is unique from West African, that's not us. But because they have a percentage of that in them, they're still in the bracket of black. Ethiopian, they can play the game and say, "Oh, I'm not black," but a lot of them say they're black, and the Falasha Jews in Israel say that they're black, and a lot of Habasha people say that they're black, and a lot of Eritrean people say that they're black. A lot of this stuff that they're doing now, some of them, this is something new, but they're not our type of black, or they're not the type of black people that we come from. That's what I'm saying.
Jack Holman wrote, "When it comes to lookership, the Andamanese Islands are a crazy outlier." And it is an outlier. Because I sat back and thought one day, when people make the statement that we traveled and circumnavigated the entire planet, right? Now, I agree with that if you're just talking about humans in general, just humans circumnavigated the entire planet. But when you say black folk, it gets sketchy when you look at the common sense of it. Listen to me for a second and goes and see if I'm tell me if I'm making sense. When I look outside of sub-Saharan Africa, right, to the rest of the world, and I look at all of the Caucasus and Europe and Russia and Kazakhstan and India and China and Japan and Southeast Asia, we're really about 5% of the population outside of sub-Saharan Africa, and I'm gonna claim these places. Like he said, the Andamanese Island, and you got to really think about it. Right now, there's only about 400 or 500 Andamanese Island people. That's like, I mean, that's like, how can we even count them as being anything of substance? They pale in numbers per se. So I don't even really want to count them. That's why it's a serious outlier, right? Outside of that, you would have to talk about Tasmanian people or people in Melanesia and Polynesian people, some people in Polynesia and Solomon Islanders, which is small groupings compared to the totality of Europe, the Caucasus, China, and you know what I'm saying? We pay it, we're like in 5%, so it doesn't make sense to say black people circumnavigated the globe. You see what I'm saying, Ngozi?
Yes, that's a completely pseudo argument for Afrocentrics because those black populations that you name are small, and you're correct about that. And they're called black because of what they look like, but genetically they're distantly far from us. They match with people in Asia, regardless of them having darkly pigmented skin, because of the MUC7 gene. These humans left out of Africa and stayed in equatorial borders to maintain their tyrosine levels to retain that dark skin. But they're not Africans. They are black people of Southern Asia, and they're very small. They don't make up the majority of Asia. So they're not a good proxy to use to say, hey, yeah, this is the original Asian, or they're no, that's pseudo. That's an Afrocentric argument and claim. And it must be destroyed.
Now, Solomon Islanders, the little kids and stuff, and some of the population with the blonde hair, right?
Correct.
And I think really, when I done my research on it, it says something about mostly the blonde hair is in the youth of that group. When they get older, it changes. It's not as blonde. And it's only 1/3 of that population that has the blonde hair. So that's even small numbers. But they have a different texture than me. And I
Absolutely.
guess you got to go by what melanin, your melanin comes about depending on the geographical area that a people originate from, right, Ngozi?
Yes, because humans left out of Africa, Chief X, dark skin. So as they left out, these people that stayed in equatorial borders, they maintained it. And then sometimes you have throwback polymorphism because some humans became intermediate brown and they went back into south equatorial borders, which allowed their tyrosine levels that's responsible for melanin cortin receptor 1 to shift to produce more uromelanin and darkly pigmentation. So pigmentation doesn't define Negro because a lot of the earlier Homo sapiens look very close to Australoids or people of Australia. Like if you look at Jebel Hud reconstruction in Morocco, the early Assyrians reconstruction in ancient North Africa, Omo Man 2 in ancient East Africa, they don't look like modern Homo sapiens in Africa. And a lot of the Aboriginal Australians retain a lot of the original features of what we have. So dark skin is natural because Homo sapiens developed in equatorial borders. You know what I'm saying? So even Australian Aborigines are called black. They don't call themselves that. Other people call them that, but they're not us at all.
You got anything to add on or say about what's been going on the last 3 4 days in the community?
I, listen. I just think it's pathetic. I'm tired of arguing with them. When it comes to Egypt, Egypt had a lot of parallel shifts talking about the people of Egypt, and no one can separate the indigenous people or the people there now and say that there's something outside of the people that's been there, regardless of slight integration. So we're moving in a better direction and explaining the people of Egypt. And those people of Egypt today are the ancient Egyptians, regardless of what they look like. And there was a line between populations south of the Sahara and populations north, even though you had phases before the Holocene period where people would go in and out. But there has been a lot of parallel shifts and later adaptations that's responsible for what you see in populations in North Africa. Because guess what? Early Eurasians, before even splitting into basal Eurasians, split from Materian people before they became Emirates. So early North Africans was already shifted to becoming Eurasian, which made them distinct from populations that they split from 130,000 years ago as Assyrians.
Somebody got a question for you on the screen. My answer is yes, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yes. I think that they're older. They've been isolated longer. They're older also in customs. So yes, they're much older. If you look at their DNA, they have a unique cluster of C, which splits from Eurasian atom directly, CTM168, and they have a unique branch of S, which comes from mtDNA-N, which came from the earlier split, but from the ancestral North Africans that Homo sapiens split from, and the mother of N is L3. So without the 3515 mutation. So absolutely, they're much older. West Africans are later derived in some phases of their DNA, but that basal West African component, which is like the ghost population, is a fusion of something very old from archaic Homo sapiens sapiens who mixed with a population that was close to West African hunter-gatherers that was very close to the earlier Tyrians. So that ghost population is, West Africans went through they received a lot of later derived traits, but they also have very old traits from an old phase of humanity.
Hey, Ngozi. So, like, in the community, like when someone say, and I used to always say this, right? And I think I got it from a rap song. What's that rap group back in the day? Conscious rap, not KRS One, but it was a group, X Clan,
Yes.
and they used to say the Ancient of Days and the Elephant Rider, right? And these lines like that. So when a lot of black folks start saying we are the Ancient of Days, we are an ancient people. So when I look at this question, this guy asked Lucas Brown, Amir, are the Australians, Amir, would the Australian be an older population than West Africans? When we say we're the Ancient of Days, we're just equating ourselves that we are everybody who's so-called melanated. We're the Ancient of Days, and we just put ourselves in the batch of people who are more ancient than us. You get what I'm saying? It's like
Yep.
it's pseudoscience
Yep.
and it's romanticization of, I guess, a people or whatever. Like we're better than everybody because we're the most ancient. We're an ancient people. There's a lot of ancient people on the planet. You know what I mean? Um, Khoisan are more ancient than West Africans. There's a lot of people more ancient than the stock I come from. Right, Ngozi?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a pseudo argument. I mean, skin color also goes backwards and forward too, because people don't believe it or not, humans didn't look the way like West Africans have a lot of later derived. Like if you look at a Sillerman and the people in Jebel Sahaba, that morphology is later derived. But the earlier humans in Africa in one phase looked like late Pleistocene Europeans. But late Pleistocene Europeans look very similar to less robust Aborigine type people. So you got to it gets very tricky, and not to mention based off a hair shaft found in a cave in a hyena cave in South Africa, a lot of our hair was intermediate, and I think the shaft ranged at 56 or 53, which showed it was in between African and European. So the curly, distinct loose hair was a similar earlier phase of what Homo sapiens had before humans started to develop thicker hair that breaks off in hot, drier climates. It breaks off because Homo sapiens stayed in open range and higher vein ranges of savanna. And we know that radiation causes DNA damage, and the DNA damage causes mutations. So higher volumes of radiation causes changes in DNA, what's DNA damage. Once the DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid goes through damage, you see the shift in mutations. So it's a very long phase of what humans look like, and a lot of traits that Western Central Africans have is later derived. So when we say shit like, "Oh, we older than a white man," that's pseudo, because all Homo sapiens are the same age. What we're looking at is the estimation timing of mutations that different populations went through. That's what people should talk about.
Was there ever a white skinned population um, older than we think, or no? Like, you see this question somebody has right here?
It says actually Homo erectus as it lost its hair likely was not dark. No, Australopithecus before he evolved, he was light under his fur, or she was light under her fur. So the Australopithecus, they were light under their fur. But by the time they became Homo erectus, they became intermediate brown. And by the time they became Homo ergaster, this is when you start to find a higher level of MUT7 mutation or tyrosine levels increase. So they go from this brown, like Khoisan type brown, when they
Your
were in
voice
the
is getting a little lower. Your voice is getting a little
so
lower.
these early humans after I'm talking about after Australopithecus because they were light under their fur, right? And the fur helped protect us. So through time, melanin increases, especially as we lost our fur. So we went from a specific intermediate brown as Homo erectus, and by the time we became Homo sapiens, we got dark. But skin color range, a good article to read for the audience is by Sarah Tishkoff. Light skin and dark skin both evolved in Africa. She went in that article. It's very beautiful the way she broke it down.
Sarah Titchkoff.
Yes, light skin and dark skin evolved in Africa. When you get a chance, Chief X, check that out, and it explains it all.
Interesting. So I always tell people, like when if somebody makes this statement, say we thinking and talking scientifically, and they say the black woman is the mother of humanity, right? Just think scientific for a minute, Ngozi. Say if we say the black woman is the mother of humanity, that's to make me feel good and my people feel good, right? Now, for instance, they said of humanity, meaning humans. But one thing, Ngozi, homo, like if somebody say Homo erectus, homo means human.
Correct.
So Homo erectus, Homo neanderthal, these are also humans, like I'm a human, but just an archaic human.
Correct.
So an archaic human is neither black or white. Therefore, scientifically, the black woman can't be the mother of humanity.
Correct. So some in the earliest first phase of Homo or genus Homo is Homo habilis. Homo habilis or handyman is the first phase of humanity, and Homo habilis was not neither dark skin or light skin because it was light. It was light, but at this time they didn't go into the direction of what we are as Homo sapiens sapiens. So Homo habilis is the first phase or the mother of humanity. It's them, which is the first phase of Homo that becomes all the other phases of humanity. We're just the last surviving stage of humanity because we had a longer run in Africa.
So if somebody say that the black woman is the mother of humanity, that's just some feel good talk.
Of course, it's still good talking. It's not scientific. It's not scientific to talk like that. You know what I'm saying? When people start putting these skin variations to people, that's not scientific. good statements. When Europeans do it or anybody else do it, light skin or dark skin, it's stupidity. That's not a scientific statement.
That's funny.
I mean, look, Chief, that you're doing an excellent job. You know, and I know I don't want to mess up your show because I'm on my cell phone about to
No,
go in
I'm
the
done. My show's done. I'm.
I'm about to go in the gym. Hey, I would like to do a presentation one day on your platform. I want to say this out loud on human migration because I'm not gonna get that debate with Jabari. You know that.
Right, you
I
know
just
that's not gonna happen.
I just do it on your platform whenever you got a chance. We can talk about it, and you can me and you can do something.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna do something. Then I want to do one strictly on the genetics of North Africa.
Yeah, you know what? I definitely got. I want to do that.
This is
Yes,
this is something that we people just don't want to strictly and only deal with. Genetics of North Africa. Let's go.
let's get it. Because I got a long, and not just that,
Fuck
but
all
even
that word and semantics and black and all this old talk. Let's get to this DNA and genetics.
but you know something else. Even let's get involved with the anthropology of the people that make of that area as
Right,
well.
right.
So I think that'll be a good thing. So whenever you're ready,
Okay.
I'm down.
Soon as you get your little presentation together on this, what you want, like just say for instance, whatever topic you and Jabari was supposed to debate on,
Salam alaikum, Afi.
get all that together, and I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna get it together, man. But I don't think he's gonna debate me though.
No, so that's what I'm saying. You just got to, listen. That's why I did Black Agent Debunk. After offering these cats $200 and $300 to have a 2 hour discussion, and nobody taking it. This is a long time ago. I said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do a presentation Black Agent Debunk." You know what I'm saying? He goes, nobody wanted to debate it, so fuck it. You got to do your presentation because Jabari not gonna debate you. You dig? No, he fell off. Yeah, so Ngozi just gonna have to do his presentation on the topic that he was gonna debate Jabari on, and we can do it here and just go in on it and let it out. Because Jabari will never ever debate me or him. He preferred to do a presentation. Right. So
Chief Beck.
Jabari preferred to do a presentation without the conflict of another combating him.
Well, I mean, he's easy, bro. Like as long as they talking Black Egypt in any type of
On
way.
this specific topic. He'll debate anybody else on any other topic, but he ain't gonna have no outright debate on this topic.
Well, he got caught lying though. He got caught lying on a few things. So I mean, I don't think that'll be a good thing. I mean, they tried to jump Unc, but Unc, did you see the last show that Unc did?
Um, on his show channel.
I think he did it on his show or it was on a chef on one of Chef's shows. It was on
Yeah, what he
somebody.
did over the last day or two, right?
Yes, and they caught Jabari, which showed Jabari don't really listen fully. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, of course they was when they're being manipulative. Yeah,
so
but they was tearing his ass up though too.
yeah, they tried to they tried to go in, bro. Yeah, that was crazy.
Somebody said, Soda said right here before we go, Amir. He said, Amir, your thoughts on Dr. Cooney, Sarah Cooney, Cara Cooney?
I like Miss Cooney, but I think that when she tried to play that one drop rule, which is outdated, that's not good enough in today's time. The one drop rule is not something that we should use as a standard to say who's black. Because when I talked about that mayor in New York, remember, you know who I talked about, Chief X, the mayor in New York when Bumpy Johnson was alive? What was his name?
Not Giuliani, right?
No, the one who looks very admixed. What was his name?
I forget.
Well, people like that were saying that they was black, but when you look at his genealogy, that man was highly European. His father was he was slightly admixed with black, and his mother was white. But he was saying that he was a black man. So that one drop rule, if we play the one drop rule, everybody in America is damn near black. That includes all Hispanics, because some Hispanics can range in sub-Saharan Africa. And
Adam Clayton Powell, somebody said.
yeah, Adam Clayton Powell, that's his name. So if we play that game, everybody in America black, because some Latinos today range from 5% sub-Saharan African, and if you Afro-Latino, you may be 40 to 50 something percent, right? And in some cases to a lesser extent higher. But we're not going to talk about the ones that we know that's obvious sub-Saharan African. We're going to talk about the ones that look like typical mestizos. And they have slight percentages of sub-Saharan African in them. And we wouldn't call a Mexican that's 5% sub-Saharan African or a Puerto Rican that's 20 some percent sub-Saharan African black. So we can't play that game. So no, the one drop rule, I think when she brought that up to try to say it came off slightly racist, but I know she's not racist. And it felt like she was paddling to the audience a little bit because she was saying from American standard they black, but she said in a coded way, but they not you niggas. You get what I'm trying to say? So kind of crazy.
That's funny.
Well, so I definitely like Miss Cooney though. I mean she's an
Yeah, I
Egyptologist.
like her. I don't have no. I don't have no issue with her. Really, issue. No, really, no big issue with her. I love the fact that she's willing to engage in the conversation.
Absolutely. I like the lady Miss Wang too. But the Egyptians are Egyptians. We can't play the black and white game with the Egyptians. And the people in North Africa, if you want to call them Middle Eastern white or North African white, that's fine. That's what they belong to, or olive, or ranging in tannic dark. But I want to be very careful with talking about North Africa playing this black game, or even trying to hold on to Horners, Somalis, or different things as a base example when they admix themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to come on and talk a little shit. I was bored tonight.
Oh
The
yeah,
Lakers didn't play tonight. Golden State Warriors, my other team, they got blew out. The worst ever. So I killed a few hours. Now I'm gonna find me a Netflix movie to watch. Hey, and I appreciate the chat and the 50 people listening to us right now. If you came in late, a quarter of the ways through, half the ways through, never start a book in the middle of the book. Rewind it back because in the beginning is where I was setting up the trap. If you missed the beginning, you may not have understood the middle. That's how I get down. But Ngozi, man, appreciate you, bro.
yeah. Thank you, Chief X, and I'll talk to you later, brother.
Okay, easy.
All right, peace.
What you say, Russell? You just got here. It got. I was breaking some shit down earlier. All right. Just to recap what I was talking about. The title says Black versus Ethiopian and Slavery. I talked about the word black and how we've always been called black and considered black in ancient times and in times today. We got to stop being against being considered black. Nobody is saying, hold on, black is an ethnicity. I'm sorry, excuse me. Nobody is saying black is a nationality or anything that deep. Cut it out, people. Calm down. It's just a description. And just to put it in simple terms, today, right now, me and my family and most people listening to me are simply American. I'm an American. When I get my passport, it says American. And to descriptive, to describe what type of American I am, we say black American. Then in your mind, you say, oh, okay, he's an African American. To describe who was shooting up this school and killed 10 kids and 3 teachers, we say that was a white American. You say, oh, okay. When we talking about Jeffrey Dahmer, who was cannibalizing and eating people, in people's mind, they want to know, what was this motherfucker? Was he a Chinese? Was he white? Was he black? Oh, he was a white man. Oh, he was a black man. Oh, he was a white American. He was a black American. That's all. It's just a descriptive word describing a people. Since people fought the word black, and the reason why all this discussion and argument about who's black, is it black person, the reason why all this, because people wanted to fight against debunking Black Egypt. So they said, what? Whoa, 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 whoa. Chief X is kicking our ass. Let's remove black from his argument and make who the people are ambiguous. We don't know what. Oh, they just range in different colors. They was everybody. There's no subset. So they tried to remove the black from our discussion and from our labeling of people. It's not happening in my watch. It's just descriptive. It's not your nationality. It's just descriptive. So since they wanted to take that away, I then started to say, and I don't know if people remember the progression. I said Negroid then. I'm trying to nail down a certain specific population of who is and who ain't. So I said Negroid. Oh, well, there ain't no Negroid. That's an outdated term, and we don't know. Ain't no black, ain't no Negro, ain't no nobody. We just all one people and African. So when I just say, hey, we just African, then you can't distinguish who built the pyramids if you say they just African. They're just an African indigenous people. You don't know if what is it, a black African, a white African, what kind of diverse person is we talking about? Who was the brainchild? Who wants to take credit for shit? Cause niggas have always been about trying to take credit for this achievement. So we want to give credit to where credit is due. This is what it's all about. Taking credit. Motherfuckers taking credit. Stealing other people's shit. No, we trying to figure out what this population was. Was it you or was it isn't you? Was it your ancestors or not your ancestors? Black, Negroid, I use it all. I'm good with it.